Let's get it, yo. Shirts and skins and we back again. The best coverage in college sports, we come to win. With Brandon, Mark, and Matt, no one go hard as that. Share it with your folks and they'll learn where it all be at. It's just three of the guys, childhood friends that be setting the vibe with a few hot takes, jokes, and predictions. Love the Boise State, we now welcome you to listen. Shirts and skins, let's go.
What is up, everybody? This is the Shirts and Skins podcast. I'm Matt Lamb. Mark Moss is here. We've also got a special guest. You can see him on screen now. Taylor Whitney joining us.
Hey.
Taylor.
Good to be here.
Welcome back. You've been with us before.
Fourth time now? Third time?
Fourth or fifth.
Fourth. Wow.
Yeah.
Still not on payroll, though.
No.
Can't swing that.
Not on the wall.
That's
my fault, I think.
That is your fault.
Oh, you guys know about that?
Not on the wall. We're going to get to the wall. Before we do that, though, Brandon's not here. Slacker. Out of town. So I'm running the controls. So we'll see how well I do. There we go. That's a great shot. Me and Mark. I'm in a new spot, so we'll get this figured out. Guys, before we get into the bulk of the episode, to the meat, you could say, I want to start off by reading a comment. This one kind of stung a little bit.
Uh-oh.
This came from YouTube. Jumpin' Idaho 1274.
Oh, yeah, you did send this to me.
Yeah. They said, first time I listened, sadly, last time. You've got to know stats of a player you are bringing up the stats on. At least how many years the coach of the team you chose to talk about has been here.
Fair.
Perhaps you are right and only your families listen.
Ouch.
I had high hopes.
Woo. My only comment on that is where'd the hopes come from? Why did he have high hopes?
Yeah, I think that's mistake number one.
Yeah.
Coming in with big expectations to the Shirts and Skins podcast.
Yeah. You sent that to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was about to respond, then I was busy and I didn't. But there's some valid points there. Some valid points.
I think I blame both of those on Brandon.
Oh, yeah, I think they're the ginger of the group, right? I don't know. Well, if you're coming to this show for hard and fast,
deep stats.
Probably not for you. Now that said,
we've got some today.
I said, we've got some today. And knowing the coach, probably. So we'll take. I took it. I'm honest here, and even in my professional life, any criticism, generally speaking, unless it's way out of left field, there's usually a shred of
a little bit of truth.
to it. So I think you take
or
it,
a lot.
Anyways, we'll do better. We'll do our best, but we're having fun here.
You guys have a couple of friends of the show, correct? At least a couple. So is he the first enemy of the show? And
he or she, I don't know who it is.
Yeah,
but
sorry about that. Yeah.
I don't know.
But they're not going to be listening, so fair game.
They won't be listening.
I don't know if they're coming back around ever. Yeah. But at least they gave us one shot.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
And we apparently blew it. Let's get to the wall.
We blew it again.
We have to start off with an apology.
Oh, no. This is a bad start.
Brandon is our main printer guy.
Yeah.
And there were several people. I don't know how many. Do you know how many? Like three?
Brandon.
3 or 4 that sent $10. And we're working on it.
It's a Ponzi scheme here. We're taking the money.
Well, that's a lot of money to be taken from people.
Yeah.
$10. But yeah, so Brandon's working on that. That's also another reason to get people to watch our next episode.
Ooh.
Is to
it's going to be a big bolus of faces going up by next time.
So
Matt and I, we're kind of, neither of us have printers. We're kind of scraping at the bottom of the barrel here.
Do people still Taylor, do you have a printer?
At home?
No, I haven't had a printer for 15 years.
I thought I was the only one. I actually feel better now knowing that I'm not the only one that doesn't have a printer at home.
I got rid of it because I was always the one like, hey, you got to fix the printer. And I was like, we're not doing this.
Right. Yeah, I go to the library or, a little bit of work theft, print things at work sometimes.
Well, I am at work, but I just found out today or yesterday that we didn't have these printed. Yeah. So our apologies there, but they're coming.
Unfortunate news for the Whiting family, by the way. They're on our wall.
Yeah. This might be the first, since we have the wall, this is the first family member of a wall to.
Yeah, she got fired.
Yeah.
BYU. I don't know her first name.
Mrs.
Sister?
Whiting?
Was it what sport was it?
Basketball.
Women's basketball.
Yeah.
Apparently didn't have too great of a record in conference play.
Yeah, well,
didn't
Big
win
12,
too many conference
Big 12,
games. It's tough.
Slightly different than what is it? The South Central Idaho Burley's league. Slightly different.
A little different from high school basketball.
Didn't quite work out.
So we're gonna leave Jace and Amari up there.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter that their mom. We wish her the best.
Yeah.
We hope she lands somewhere. We're not against the
No.
Whiting family at all.
Not at all.
Even though they unmentioned our tweet. Amari did. Okay, that's it. That's housekeeping with comments, with getting on the wall. If you still want to get on the wall, $10. I'll put the Venmo up, but it goes to Brandon. So, that's risky, but that's all we got.
Yeah.
There was a basketball game Friday night, a big basketball game against Colorado State. There's some feelings we need to discuss, some thoughts, some takeaways. Mark Moss, why don't you lead us into that?
Well, I wasn't there. Taylor was there. You were there.
I was there. I saw you there,
You were both
Taylor.
there.
Yeah.
So, sorry. Go ahead.
Just confirming we were both there. Yes.
We made eye contact. Apparently, I made you feel bad that you weren't going to join us on the podcast.
It must have been me projecting my guilt into your expression.
But he's here.
He's here.
I don't know. I don't know where we want to go with this. It's been, what are we, 48 hours? This is Sunday night, so it's been about 48 hours. Disappointment, I generally get over those Boise, basketball losses pretty quickly. Much quicker than football, like much quicker. I woke up, and I think I tweeted, I woke up the next morning still feeling that one. It was a late night game too. And more so just for the guys. I mean, I think we all like the team. There's a bunch of good guys, good character guys, good players.
It was senior night, man.
Oh my
Deggies.
gosh. You guys weren't watching the television. The number of times that was mentioned was just way too many. But
yeah, I was there early enough to catch the
you did.
Deggies
Good.
out there. People
Yeah.
are chanting Deggy.
Yeah.
I think. Is that what
did they do
were
the
saying?
2-minute standing ovation? I heard
Yeah.
for Deggy. No, it wasn't.
It's kind of weak, I thought. But
Yeah.
Was it?
So just disappointed. I mean, the reality is everyone's, people are upset, and we'll get into it. I think there's some valid reasons about why people are upset or disappointed, whatever. That's what being a fan is, and that's okay. I'm not going to condemn those. But the reality is that no one wanted it more than those players, and I feel bad for them because the reality is and we're going to get into it, but they had a big opportunity. I think they win that game and don't just totally crap their pants in Vegas. I think they're probably maybe in the tournament, and now they got to do something special in Vegas. And so I'm disappointed for them. It's not the way they wanted to go out. It's too bad. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of it, but that's just my initial thoughts. You guys were there, though. What was it like?
Taylor?
Yeah, disappointing. It seemed like we'd figured some things out, and the momentum, it felt like the end of 2 years ago with Danielson when it was the crap season. Everybody kind of given up and was moving on to basketball. And then things, like we kept winning and things kept falling into place for us to have a Mountain West championship. So it kind of started to feel like that with the New Mexico win and the Utah State win. So I was hyping it up to the people I was going to the game with, my fiance and my daughter, saying, you need to come to this. Good crowd, because we don't always have good crowds. Big game. If we win, we're in. Senior night, Deggy, all that stuff. And then, just disappointing that it didn't materialize, and it seemed like they were going to do it because they beat New Mexico and Utah State. Disappointing.
So I want to go over what good crowd means. I think it was a good crowd
Sometimes.
for Extra Mile.
Okay.
Right? For what we're used to and what we can expect. It's like, we got on a run, we were up 9, and people are cheering because that's awesome, we're up. But it's like when we're down and you're trying to, we're not getting after them on defense, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, trying to get the crowd into it. It was good crowd, and I don't want to be a wet blanket like Mark Moss. But it was packed. There's a lot of people there. Yes, there were some empty seats. I took pictures of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a good turnout for Deggy's last game. It's not a super hostile environment. Did it get loud at times? Yeah, it did, and that's fun when it does. But you don't have the student section just constantly yelling at the other team, making noise. So
Well, I feel embarrassed for not knowing this, But what is basketball cheering protocol? I know in football, you do not cheer when you're on offense. In basketball, do you cheer when you have the ball?
Not typically. I mean, you're loud on just like in football. You're loud when you're on defense.
Offense, big cheers when you score, do something good. On defense, you should be loud and obnoxious for them.
Yeah, I think a good crowd is relative to what we've had the rest of the season because it's been pretty sleepy crowds.
Yeah.
And then New Mexico, Utah State. But I thought the Utah State crowd was better end to end and in the right moments than the Colorado State game. But I think that had more to do with Colorado State taking us out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't there. So I feel like I've been in that stadium I remember watching the Birdo game when they played Washington. I remember watching some big-time games when Roberto Bergeson was playing with Jerry Washington. All the way up through, I remember when ESPN broadcast the first Boise State game ever. I think it was when Gonzaga came. This is before Mark Few. Anyways, I've been in there when there's been, and more recently, some of the San Diego State games have been amazing, really legit crowds. But I haven't seen it like that for a few years. And so I wasn't there. So on the TV, I will say just from watching it on TV, there was no inclination. They didn't have any crowd shots of like, oh, this place looks amazing. There was none of that. Like at Utah State, they're showing the student section, the chants, there was none of that. So, I mean, the announcer would say, oh, and the crowd's getting into it now or whatever. But it was not a factor like some places are in this league from what I could tell on TV. And then we weren't planning on going into this, but boy.
Yeah, the crowd wasn't on the notes.
No. But they got to figure that. I know we've talked about it. Maybe this is an off-season topic. They got to figure out the lifetime things. Like they're right. Like when the TV shot it's only showing the blue seats, and it looks like 20% of the blue seats are not being sat in.
Yeah,
and it's just a bad look. It's a bad look.
Yeah, I think some of those TV angles painted a worse picture.
Yes,
and you've got some holes that are right there on the screen.
There. Yes,
looking around. There's a lot of people there, but those shots.
Anyways, that's not. But as far as the game goes, I think
let's go to the game
We've
itself.
gone into how many minutes here, and I mean, it did drive me a little nuts listening to Leon. I listened to Leon's. He said tip the cap too many times, and I'll talk about why I feel that way. That said, at least one time I'm going to say you got to tip this cap to Nique Clifford, right? I don't know if he's going to win Player of the Year. First or second, right? But he, ultimately goes for 36 points. And it wasn't just 36 on 25 shots. It was 36 points on like 16 shots or 18 shots. He couldn't miss. That was the difference in the game.
I thought he was like 15 for 18.
18, something like that. It was crazy.
Again, a stat we should probably know.
Yeah.
It was 13. You do know.
13?
13, yeah.
Okay.
So, he was the difference maker. He was the best player in the arena by a pretty wide margin, I would say. And that was the difference in the game. So credit there. I do want to talk about that. But
speaking of Clifford,
I
bring this up. Nathan Carroll, shout out Nathan Carroll. He's been on the show before. Awesome guy. A point that he made was this. Very interesting.
Okay.
Boise State has played 2 players in conference play that are top 50 NBA prospects.
Okay.
Boise is 0-4 in those games.
Okay.
And the NBA prospect dominated 3 of those 4 games.
Yep.
This team needs to find a way to get more athletic this offseason. Major issue.
I've been crucified for saying that
we don't have the athletes.
For years, I've been crucified for that exact opinion. Glad to see that Nathan, and Nathan is a stats guy, and that's absolutely true. And I think there's a few things to bring up about that. The loss of Chibuzo Agbo was not more apparent at any point in time this season more than it was Friday night. He was the same size as Clifford, super athletic, could D up. That was our guy that was going to stop a guy like Nique Clifford. Clifford averaged 18 points a game in conference play. Okay, 18. He scored 27 and 36 on us, which means that means he had games that were like 10 or 12 against other people, right? So he dominated us. And I like Meadow. I'm not going to bash Meadow. He did his best. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. And he could have gone. It felt like he could have. He wasn't just forcing up shots. He could have gone for 40 plus. Easy. 2 more. You know what I mean? So that's a problem. It's disappointing that they, in this day and age, you got to know, you got to have backup plans. And they obviously didn't have a good enough backup plan in the case that Ogbo was gone. So I don't want to blame them.
Yeah. So, Mark, you played college basketball.
JC, baby.
What do you do in that situation?
Yeah.
Right? Meadows guarding him.
Uh-huh.
Did Meadow guard him the whole game? I probably should have known this.
I think I saw Alvaro was on him a little bit, and that was not any better. Ultimately,
should we have double teamed?
Yes.
Get the ball out of his hands?
And I was talking to Taylor about this before you got here. My biggest issue in this game was that there was 2 all Mountain West first team players in the game, right? Degenhart and Clifford. Degenhart had 6 shot attempts and a couple fouls, but he had 6 shot attempts. Was taken completely out of the game. And Clifford dominated the game. And as Clifford, they are 2 totally different players. Clifford's an NBA guy. Degenhart, he's a great player. He's not an NBA guy for obvious reasons.
European guy?
Yeah, he can go play in Europe. But my biggest issue is Colorado State schemed Degenhart out of the game. What did we do to get Clifford out of the game?
Obviously nothing.
No, I'm
much.
sure they
Not
tried.
enough.
It just didn't. We got outcoached. I feel like in that game, they did a great job taking our best player out and saying someone else beat us. I didn't feel like, he made tough shots. That's what great players do. We didn't get the ball out of his hands. Degenhart couldn't work because they were running 2 guys at him, 3 guys at him at times. And again, they're different players. I get it. We did not do enough to get the ball out of his hands. That's clear, in my opinion. So that's my biggest frustration is that he played great. Some of those shots, hand in his face, credit to him. But boy, we were ill prepared for that. And that just seems so, the frustrating thing for me is that was a big game.
Huge game. Huge implications.
Huge implication. All the stuff. And it appeared that our plan was let's have him beat us. Let's have him beat our sophomore Andrew Meadow. And he did. And then it was like, we'll try Alvaro on him. And he beat him. But it's like, you got to get the ball out of his hands. I don't know. Easier said than done, obviously. But he averaged 17 or 18 a game. He didn't average 36 a game. Against us, he averaged over 30. So we didn't have a good plan for him either game, obviously. And so that's frustrating. That was my biggest frustration, if I'm being honest.
I'm curious to hear what Taylor thinks.
Yeah, not to be too agreeable and interesting, but I don't know what I would add to that other than the athletes thing. We just weren't as good as them. We don't have the athletes. Like San Diego State, we couldn't compete with them. But if we're not making threes too, we're getting boat raced, it seems like. And when we were up by 9 multiple times in that game, it never felt like it was because we were the better team or we had the momentum to me. Well, it was because of momentum, but I didn't feel like it was because we were the better team. And I never felt like we were the better team against Colorado State or Utah State or New Mexico. And I think the crowd made a little bit of a difference and we were making some threes. But there was that whole segment, the stat of we were up by 9 with 11 minutes left, and then it was a 32-13 run. So is that because of the scheming? Is that because of the lack of the athletes? Is that being outcoached? Is it because Clifford took over? It's probably a mixture of all 3.
Sure.
But I don't know. It's not like Leon doesn't know we need more athletes, and they're not trying. So I don't know what to make of that either, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get guys. I got to be careful what I say. But, Mark, you've said this, the athletes.
Why, though?
When do we get the Donovan Dents?
So I think Roddy Anderson was a Dent athlete. Yeah, I think he's just not nearly as good.
Yeah.
No offense to him.
And he's one, right? He's one of one. He's probably going to be the player of the year.
Yeah.
But
so I don't know. I don't know why inherently, because Fort Collins, is that an easier place to recruit superior athletes to than Boise? I don't buy that. I don't know. I just think that they're looking for a specific player that, and it feels weird because for many years we were getting dominated by San Diego State because of the athleticism. I think that, and then like Leon has said, like we went out and we built our teams to beat San Diego State. And for a few years we were beating San Diego State and we were there. And then this year it was very apparent again that we weren't there. And I don't know, again, Ogbo and Roddy, they were both on our team last year. And if things go as planned, those guys are both on our team this year, right? If Roddy would have developed the way they wanted him to. So I don't think it was any purpose of anybody. We don't want to be athletic. I just think that they had some guys, they leave. I think Lockett is pretty twitchy. He hasn't quite panned out yet. So just the guys that they can trust and play are not necessarily the most athletic guys, I guess. I don't know, but it was it was a problem on multiple games this year.
And this isn't to say that we're a bad team.
No,
right? This isn't to say that Leon's a horrible coach, but I think what we've come to expect is to run out of gas in March and not know what's going on and not to have those guys to get us over that hump when we need them, because they definitely weren't there Friday night.
Yeah, it's just like, you in basketball, you have your sets and you have some plays you run out of a timeout, and you have things that you draw up. And at the end of games and at the end of seasons, it's like you need a guy that can go get you buckets. You know what I mean? And it's like, who's that guy? I think it might be Carmichael in a year or two. He has flashes, and he's athletic. He's young, but like Clifford's that guy. You know what I mean? And who was that guy for us? Degenhart. And I'm not going to say, hopefully he ends up as the number one scorer in school history. Great guy, 4 years, great ambassador. Like we've all heard the stories. The guy's amazing. I'm not going to bash on him, but he's just not that player. He's not that player. Mentally, he's not that player. And just physically, he's not. I mean, he's 6'8", 6'9". He's not, he's not overly, he's just not that player. You don't give him the ball and he doesn't go ISO. You try and get him, you got to manufacture ways to get him the ball in the post or whatever. Great player, but he's not that player that can just go get you buckets, give him the ball and let him work. And we had Derek Marks.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the last guy. Anthony Drimmick was a great player, but a great shooter. I don't know if he was that guy either. I think it was Chandler Hutchison had about a year,
Yeah,
he was that guy.
He blew up, yeah.
And it's just like we don't have that guy right now. And
when we were beating San Diego State, and sorry, I'm not helping with our image here with Jump Idaho, but that guard we had 3 or 4 years ago when we were beating San Diego State, what was his name? He was really athletic. He was before.
What was that? Hutchison? Oh, you're talking about not Hutchison, but the skinny.
Yeah, he was athletic, and he could take over a game and create his own shot.
Oh my gosh, why can I not remember that guy?
He was really streaky.
Alston Jr.
Yes,
he was
Derek
an athletic,
Alston.
and he.
I'm not even talking about him.
You're not talking about him.
It was a guard.
Well, he was kind of a wing. What are you talking about?
I shouldn't have brought it up because we didn't know this.
Well, but I kind of forgot about Alston, but he was a guy that could D up. He was long and lean. Yeah. He was quick. He was very streaky. You know what I mean? But we don't have that guy now either. Yeah. I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll
is it a white guy or a black guy?
Black guy, yeah.
It was not Ray J. He was only here for a year though, and then he left.
Ray J. Dennis?
Marcus
Shaver, Big Shot Shave?
Marcus Shaver.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job.
So you're right.
Like how far back are we
Sorry,
going?
you're right. People are probably listening.
Yeah.
He could go get, yes. You're right.
Yeah.
We just don't have that right now. We don't.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. It's funny. We've had good players. Yeah. It's not like we've never had good players.
I love this team. I like a lot of these players. When Clifford had 3 fouls early in the second half.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned this parking lot not on here, but why didn't we go after him? Because he had 4 fouls late in the halfway, like with 10 minutes left too, I thought.
4 or 5 minutes at least. There was enough time.
Just go after him every single time, scheme him into guarding someone and then just drive and try and get
Dickey knows how to get fouled,
yes.
right? I mean, put him in that situation.
Yeah. There was a lot of meat left on. I mean, ultimately, basketball is actually simpler than we probably make it out to be, right? They shot 57% from the field. They shot 48 from
like,
three.
Weren't they both halves?
And
it
like,
was 57,
yeah.
50, something like
and
that.
like 98 from the free throw line. They missed 1 free throw. Like, they made buckets. It's about making buckets. They made more buckets. It just happens. Yep. So it's hard to be too critical. But it just feels like there was coaching involved too. I just felt like that there was. I mean, the biggest point
besides the matchup on Clifford,
I thought that
what
was
else
it.
would have been?
That was the biggest one. This certainly was the biggest one in my opinion. The other thing too was I felt like they they used their timeouts well. They stopped runs, timeouts. They changed their, like, we're making a run, boom. They come out from a timeout, and now they're in a 1-3-1 zone, right? And they just, and the players even said it took us out of their rhythm. We took timeouts, and like, what's his name? The young guy, Peanut.
Carmichael.
He hits 2 or 3 in a row. We call a timeout and take him out. I don't think he scored again. It was like the dude just scored twice in a row.
Well, I think Meadow had a couple back-to-back.
Yeah.
He had back-to-back threes, and then, I mean, they called a timeout and shut it down.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that they called a timeout, another one, and came out and drew something up and got an open layup under the hoop.
Yep.
And I feel like, do you remember that?
Yeah.
And we call a timeout, and it's like, okay, let's go back to our motion offense. Like, when was the last time we had a timeout and we drew up a play that, like, got us a bucket?
Worked.
Again, I'm not saying fire anyone. I'm not saying any of that. It was just, it felt, there's games in football where we've been like, oh, we got outcoached, and that was common in the Avalos era. I don't feel like I've said that a lot about the Leon Wright. I mean, I have my complaints, but as far as like in-game coaching, I thought that, what is it, Nique Medvedev or?
Nailed it.
Nailed it, right? I thought the Colorado State coach.
Jumpin' Idaho said great pronunciation.
Perfect. I thought he coached a great game. And from start to finish during the game, again,
Yep. Agreed.
I just didn't feel.
Those 2 or 3 times we got up by 9, and it felt like, ooh, it could get to the point where we could get this out of reach. They called the timeout. They came back out, and they went on a run and got it within 4, 3, 2, 1 points really quick. And that's good coaching for sure. I don't know how you could. I mean, I'm not an X and O's guy. That's not the value I bring to this podcast. But that's apparent. That's coaching, and we didn't do the opposite of it.
Yeah. So, no, go ahead.
Go for it, Mark.
I don't know. I think that was the game. I mean, I know we're a couple days out, and everyone wants to kind of move on, but.
Well,
the last thing about the game that I wanted to say, or that I had written down, was that, and just as an homage to Brandon, because he always kind of mentions this, if we don't have the big 3 guys producing, we're in trouble, and that's exactly what happened, right? So we had Cardenas gave it his all. Dickey, he ended up with decent numbers, and he was certainly. I'm not going to criticize Dickey, and then Meadow looked great on offense again. Yep. He's become quite a scorer, but after that, it was nothing. Omar was. I hate to say that, but he was a mess. He had that first dunk.
He started, and you wonder, like, as a coach, too, is that the thing that's going to get his confidence going?
Yeah.
And it never really did. He scored early. He had the dunk off the assist from Alvaro.
Block.
Yeah, but he had a couple
block,
turnovers.
Turnover,
and
the
he's
led to
jacking that 3 at the wrong time. Hey, he didn't play well. Javen Buchanan. Parents, no, I don't know. Where was Javen? He didn't play great, right? He had the minutes he had. I don't know how many minutes he played, but I mean, no, I'm not going to bash on it. We just didn't get enough production from anyone other side other than those 3. We shot in the 20s percentile with the 3-point range. It's just like you need some production out of more than 3 guys, and you need to hit. RJ Keenan, we've loved him. We've loved him on this podcast.
Yeah,
not a great game for him either. He was hustling out there.
He was hustling.
It just wasn't. It wasn't our night on many. For many guys.
And it's tough too, because RJ a lot of times will get you those hustle plays, like the rebounds or forcing the steal or getting the steal or whatever it is. At the end, it was like, we need to put Carmichael in for RJ so that we can get some points.
Yeah.
And RJ's not a guy that's going to shoot much. And so when you don't get the production from him in those kind of or those hidden areas of the rebounds or whatever.
Yeah. It's a liability.
Tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yep. So that puts us to, I don't think we want to do a full recap of the season quite yet, because the reality is I'm going to be gone next weekend, by the way. It's spring break coming up, so we'll be out of town. I don't know if you'll be here or what the pod is, but a week from now, we could be saying, we're in the tournament. It's possible. I'm not betting on that, but so I'm not going to completely put a stake in the season, but
Alvaro in the postgame said he likes his chances.
Likes our chances. And I like that. I appreciate that. Yeah. He's been a good, but let's just talk about the regular season in and of itself. And I mean, there's no, I know I used that word sugarcoating before.
Usually it's a wet blanket coating from you.
Well, what do you want me to say? I just think that the prognosticators, I don't know. We're not a bad team. We finished
No.
fourth. Yeah, we're not a bad team, but it is tough when you have high expectations, and I know we're going to go into that, but expectations were, were first place. I mean, that was
and we got an at-large last year. So
yeah. So I mean, that was, and with this team, they didn't meet that. I mean, we can say that in the regular season, those expectations were not met. I don't think we were that far off, but we got swept by 2 teams.
Yeah.
One of them finished behind us, San Diego State. Interesting.
And I think just the roller coaster of, of the rotations and not knowing who's going to produce and all. It's just that's been kind of weird and unexpected.
It's been weird.
Well, why are our expectations the same the last 4 or 5 years when we lose in March? There's some Leon detractors, and we have the same players usually with a couple exiting. So why are our expectations continuing to rise or stay the same when we've had 4 or 5 years of it ending this way? Why were the expectations high again
Like
this
we've
year?
seen this movie before?
Well, that's why people get frustrated, right? Is because of expectations. I mean,
Yes.
how happy you are at any given moment is met or unmet expectations. You can simplify it down to that.
Right.
So if we've been griping about Leon and these losses, and each year we make it and we lose, 4 years in a row, why are our expectations still the same as the year prior or getting higher? And I know the media voted for us, but as fans, why has it not gone down the last 2 years if it was... I don't know.
So we should take the advice we gave to Jump in Idaho to come in with low expectations.
Well, yeah. So I think you trigger some people when you talk about this because they're like, what? I can't have expectations now? And I don't think I would ever say that. I think you can have expectations. But what are we talking about here? Like,
Let's bring in that quote.
Let's bring up expectations, Mark.
Let's bring this in. Let's talk about it. Our beloved athletic director, Jeramiah Dickey, about a day ago, sometime yesterday, he did his tweet says, "What's next?" Exclamation point. Not a question mark. Exclamation point. Interesting. Want to know with the little.
So he's saying what is next? He's not asking.
He's not
saying
asking.
What?
Then he's got his little devil emoji and some prayer hands or whatever. So
the devil emoji is for like the haters,
yeah,
right? The vampires.
It's for the energy vampires.
Energy vampires.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's inviting. He's inviting what he's about to get.
he's trolling a little bit, right?
Yeah, for sure. So Grill Master Greg,
I don't know, Greg.
So here's what
if Greg's out there, I'd love for him to grill for us.
Yeah, he's probably good.
Yeah.
Here's what Grill Master Greg has to say. What's next? ? How about you put some pressure on Leon behind the scenes? About to be 15 years and next to no success in March. Guy is a good coach, but he's not great. Once the calendar turns to March, him and his teams wither away. Get ready for 0-1 in Las Vegas next week. Okay, so a little bit of a pessimistic outlook, although some valid points there.
That wasn't Grill Master Mark?
That was
Moss?
not me. I didn't know. Jeramiah comes back. And this is what I wanted. I'm more interested in what Jeramiah has to say. Not Grill Master Greg has an opinion, and a lot of people have opinions, whatever. This is what Jeramiah has to say. You speak as if BSU had tradition of success, like football, over 3+ decades. We didn't. What Leon/team have done, especially the last 4 years, is make us relevant. Expectations are a blessing. No one likes losing, especially me. But I choose to believe, take zero effort, and cause zero to do so. Okay? I think there's kind of a lot to unpack there. I personally, what are your first thoughts about that, Matt?
You're putting me on the spot.
Oh, sorry.
I read through it. Let's go to Taylor first.
Taylor and I were talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, I love it. I eat this stuff up because I think he's doing his job very well. He's a leader. He's an administrator. I think that's a very managerial, administrative type approach. And you have to do multiple things when you're in this position. You have to back your coaches and your players. You have to manage the fan base expectations while also keeping them excited. You have to be positive. So you have to make these statements that serve multiple purposes. And I think he nailed it, and I love it. But I know there's people who don't feel that way about tweets like this, and I have a hard time understanding it. So I am hoping through this conversation I can understand that better and not just be critical, and I can be diplomatic and not just call people dumb. But like a lot of the responses to this, I think you get both sides. You get your people being like, yeah, what's next? JD, and then you have your people who are like, we don't have expectations, right? And I always before I go too far with that, yeah.
No, I think it's good. Us three. Well, Brandon was here last week. We were talking about Leon, and all three of us were kind of on that same page. Like, oh, how would you feel if Leon left? Oh man, I'd be disappointed. We can't fire. Why would we want to fire Leon, right? And I again still don't feel like we should fire Leon at all. But I understand the other side of it a little bit. I really do. As far as Taylor, I read that tweet, and maybe it's my pessimistic point of view. I don't know. I read that, and my very first thought was, oh, so you're saying because we don't have a history of success in basketball, this is all we can ask for? That's what my first thought before interpreting and talking or whatever and tweet was like, how dare you guys be upset because...
So you can only be upset after you've had a long...
Yeah. And it's like, well,
decades, 3+ decades of football, that seems longer than it has been.
We've had a lot of success in football for a long time.
Yes.
And so, I don't know. My first thought was like, okay, just so we all know, we can't have too high expectations here in basketball because we don't have a history of it. I don't agree with that. Whether or not that's exactly what he meant to say, that's up for interpretation. I agree with him that we didn't, and Leon has brought raised the bar to a new level. No doubt about it. But we all know the record in March. And like, it was just on display again. And it's like, I don't know. What are the expectations? What should the expectations be?
Have fun and clap, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know.
Show up.
Everybody have a good time.
Let me throw
cheer.
a couple. So I just
throw the wet blanket in the dryer.
I want to throw, and not that I want to take over this whole thing with other people's comments, but I just thought there was a couple comments in our friend chat group that I think are out there. I only want to read them because I think these are comments or thoughts that people do have out there.
Brother of the show.
Not my brother. Yeah, but there's some brothers.
Is this the one you're gonna?
Well, there's a couple.
Okay,
if that's okay.
Okay.
So this was someone from this. He says, how can he expect fans to spend time, money, and to be legit fans, and then at the same time be shocked when fans have expectations? Never can understand how he thinks he can have it both ways. Valid.
I don't see him saying any of that in what he said there.
Okay.
Zero of it. None of it.
Okay. Let me read one more, and then let's talk about it. Anyways, to establish tradition, what do you need? Conference championships and success in March. Maybe an NBA lottery pick or two. What is a team that has never won? What is a team that has never won but has a super rabid fan base? Those don't exist. So to expect us to be that without those things is a lot to ask. Then we have one more.
All right.
Leon has rode this perfectly to never get fired. Take over an average program, continue to be average for a decade, and then get slightly better, but not good enough to get a single win in the tournament. I think that those
just good enough.
Yeah, I mean those are not my words, but I think that's a sampling of some of what's out there, and I'm not going to say any of that's wrong.
Yeah,
I think it comes back to what you were saying, Taylor, is like, what should our expectations be?
Yeah. I think is it just hang on because we're building this momentum, okay? And you could say, well, what momentum? Because we can't get over the hump in March. March, everything falls apart, right? And it has, and it's been proven to be that way. We just played this last game in March. The Colorado State game was in March, and we felt it, and it's like, oh, yep, here we go again. But I think, is that what JD is saying the expectation should be? Guys, yeah, we're not getting over the hump in March, but look at what the alternative could be, right? You could be Fresno State, you could be whatever, which obviously none of us want that. I think what's hard is, we want to build, and we have those expectations of building because we've been here before. So why aren't we getting to the next step? And like you said, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's what the fans want, right? You want to be the fan of the best team.
I thought that, or whoever had said that, you can't name, and he said it right, name a rabid fan base that packs the stadium. Everyone's there. They're giving their money to the Bronco Pro, NIL Collective, blah, 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 blah. And they're there for everything, and they don't have a history of winning in March. Name one in the country.
So is our basketball fan base a rabid fan base?
No.
I wouldn't
Right.
say rabid.
But they want it to be.
So why are we acting? So I think that's his point. Why are we acting if the expectations are up here, rabid fan base expectations, when we are not that because we haven't won at that level? And that's his point.
Okay.
Do we really expect do we expect the basketball team to be as good as the football team? Where's the lie in this tweet? Is that fair? Do we actually expect that? Do we have higher expectations of the football team than the basketball team?
Yes.
By far. By a
yeah,
lot.
Yeah.
And it's hard to compare because it's apples and oranges, right? So we expect Boise State to get to a New Year's Six or whatever we call it, the playoff now, right? Mm-hmm. Do we expect the basketball team to make it to March Madness? But is making it to the first game of March Madness the same as making it to the playoff?
No, it's not. And I don't. It's a great point, great perspective. I think for me the problem is that it's just you've seen some of our. Well, yeah, it's hard to compare. Like football, we've been so successful, top 10. No one's expecting Boise State basketball to be a top 10 program. I don't think. I think the tough thing is, yes, on one hand, you're comparing it to the success in football, and you're also comparing it, and at least I do, to our peer schools. I see Utah State, I see San Diego State, these teams that are in our league that spend nearer. I mean, San Diego State spends more. Utah State, not necessarily. And the problem with our program, our basketball program, is it's not that we haven't done it lately. We are the team out of 363 Division I teams. We have the worst record in the tournament of all of them, 0-10. And so it's like we've seen all these other teams around us, small schools. I mean, you see St. Peter's or whatever. I don't even know the name. Beat Kentucky. Like all these schools make runs. We haven't won a single game. Not one. We're 0-10. And that's okay. Well, we can't. We go to Vegas, 15 years.
Yeah.
Where our record is abysmal. I mean, it's like not even like close.
Yeah, if you want to talk about expectations, I don't expect to win one game in Mountain West. It's just how
You mean like for this year? Yeah.
I just don't expect it.
No. And so I think that my expectations are not to be equal with the football program. My expectation is to every once in a while show a pulse in March. That's the expectation I have. And it's like once in 10 years. I don't know. Am I wrong? And like, get it. I get it. At the same time, I'm not saying fire Leon. I just understand the frustration because we've been so good in December, in January, in February, many years. We're the top third of the league for like the last decade. And we're like top whatever. I mean, we are there. That's the frustration is that we, like Dickey's saying, we build expectation because we've been really good. We are the top of
That's why we got voted preseason number 1.
Right. But then it's like the same freaking story in March. That's the problem.
I agree. You're doing a good job helping me understand and bringing me to that viewpoint. And I'm disappointed in that too. I want us to win more tournament games, the Mountain West tournament, and actually win a March Madness game. But
you should.
So here's the disconnect. I don't think Jeramiah is telling us not to have expectations. I think he's choosing positivity and he's not being fake optimistic. He's acknowledging it's disappointing. He's acknowledging, yeah, we want to do better. But he literally says, no one likes losing, especially me, but I choose, before that he says, make us relevant. Sorry, full context. We didn't, oh man, I'm butchering it. Sorry. You speak as if BYU has a tradition of success like football.
BYU, BSU.
Right. Especially over the last 4 years. It makes us relevant. Expectations are a blessing, right? So he's acknowledging that expectations are a blessing. So, but people fly off the handle from, he doesn't have to respond to this. And how could he respond differently? Is he saying, yeah, we suck. You guys are right. I'm going to go fire his ass. He's going to do that? What's his other choice?
No,
what other message is he going to give us?
I'm not, it's just, he's been here for 4 years, right? Like
He's like, I got to find this guy. I need to talk to him right now.
He's been here for 4 years, okay? We've withstood this for 15.
Right.
Like, so he hasn't quite tasted, I mean, he's in the middle of it. It's his job. I'm not saying he doesn't understand it. I'm not trying to say that. But
he just hasn't endured what Mark Moss has endured.
Well, he hasn't. He hasn't. It's a long, like, it's, I don't know. That's for me it. It's not that we've been a middling program. It's not that we just haven't gotten better and we don't win. It's literally that calendar changes and something happens. And it's just like, Jeramiah, Dickey, and Spencer Johnson, but Jeramiah Dickey multiple times has in reference to like the energy vampire story, he's referenced that whole, what's the definition of insanity, right? Having a coach that's 15 years doing the same, like, again, that are we expecting something different? You're not. No. Are we hoping that we go down to Vegas and have a good showing?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Do I expect it? Not at all. Why not? Because we have once. And
I think I'm not saying a lot of fans go to Vegas. I've never been. You've been.
I did last year. I just happened to be there.
And I know that those like, maybe you could call them rabid fans, but the ones that travel all the time. But you got to think that not a ton are going to travel based off of what's happened in the past.
Oh, no,
where
I
it's
agree.
just like, well,
and New Mexico,
might win a game.
New Mexico takes that place over. Like they really do. Like there is like 8,000, like whatever, thousands of people are there. Half the gym is New Mexico.
And it's like Las Vegas is obviously a destination place. People like to go there, right?
Yeah.
And when football, and we've talked about New Year's Six being a bigger deal than basketball. I mean, it's New Year's Six is the Mountain West tournament.
Right.
I'm not saying that. But for me as a fan, if we're hot, if we've won before in Vegas, I might go.
Yeah.
I might pull some strings and, make some stuff happen and say, hey, let's go down there. But right now it's like, I'll cheer from home. Yeah, for sure.
So it's tough. I mean, it's a chicken or the egg, right? But I go back with that text from one of our loyal listeners here.
Mustachio.
I thought it was a good point. Like the winning has to come first. It's hard in this day and age to like expect all this stuff. And it's all about, but anyways, I don't know. I don't know if this is cathartic or not, or people are hating to hear us talk. I don't know. I know that there's that other side. I know the Morales brothers are probably hearing this and shaking their head and rolling their eyes, and I appreciate that side too. I do. The like true blue, like everything is good. There's nothing, and it takes it all. I'm good. I'm not criticizing anyone for the fire. I don't like people like going crazy, and being super personal about firing people and losing their job, but. I get it because I literally see both sides. As I sit here today, do I want Leon to leave? No. Do I want him fired? No. But boy, I'm sick of watching the same darn thing too. And I think you can feel both sides. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because what does griping about it or talking about it on a podcast actually accomplish? Like, because we're talking about insanity and we want the program to be good, but being a whiny wet pants on the internet literally is non-productive. It does not do anything to move the needle at all, right?
Right.
And our good opinions don't move the needle either, right?
Sure.
So I think that's what I really appreciate about this tweet from AD is he's trying to deal in what is productive. And I think what is productive is doing all the things he's doing. He's backing his coach. He's encouraging the players. He's actually engaging with the fan base, which I really appreciate.
You got to appreciate that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do that. And like I said, if he doesn't take this message, what is the alternative message that he could put out there? Like,
no, I'm not criticizing
a negative one. Yeah.
I'm not criticizing him.
So I think that's where I get annoyed with the internet and people's opinions on the internet, and fully acknowledging, looking at the camera here, I am an idiot and my opinion does not matter. Like I am a loser, just like I'm going to call all the rest of you right now. Like let's call this what it is. When we are complaining and whining and criticizing, just call it what it is. Sports, it's drugs to you. Like consuming sports as entertainment is drugs for you. And that's why you go out there and act like a petulant child when you criticize them, is because you're coping.
Sure.
You're so upset and it's just coping, just like we do. Like I have fat butt disease, so when I am not managing my emotions very well, I go and I eat, right? So just call it what it is too. When you're losing your freaking mind and you're criticizing them and talking at your butt, when you really don't know what's going on behind the scenes, I'm talking to you, Grill Master Greg.
Oh, calling him out.
But for him to suggest that JD is not putting pressure behind the scenes, like the fact is we just don't know.
We don't
what's
know
going on
that.
behind the
Yeah,
scenes,
we don't
right?
know that.
So when we put out these flippant comments, like suggesting that this hasn't been done or why don't you try that, it's like, quit talking out your behind, right?
Yeah. Do you think Jeramiah Dickey's like, hey, Leon, we got to win this game. Hey, no, come in here.
Consider
Sit down.
winning this game,
Sit down.
right?
This is Colorado State.
Right.
We want an at-large bid. We really want that. So you need to win.
Right. Yeah, and JD should probably try that, right? Like, thanks for speaking up, you guys, right? So I'm not saying that I'm smart and I have a better position. I certainly don't. But any wise commentary is non-productive. It doesn't actually do anything. Any unwise commentary.
I don't disagree with that at all. But, and I've said this before, like, I don't disagree with what you just said. But then, like, what's the point of any of it then?
Right, and that's why it's like getting too philosophical,
good, bad, or indifferent,
right?
Right? Like, it's just like, at least, again, I don't like
Taylor's bringing philosophy.
Yeah, but it's like, people tweet, they whatever, because that's what they're feeling, and it's a way to interact and communicate, and there's a community or whatever. I mean, if you can never criticize anything, well, then what's the point?
Well, why do we consume sports? Is it to get pissed off and get angry? Or is it to be entertained and have a good time or whatever? I guess it could be both. Why do we do this? Why do we consume it?
Because
so we can bitch about it?
Or probably I say the other side. Cheer.
Right, because
I think some people do.
Yeah.
Honestly,
they want to complain.
They want to complain. I do think that there's some people
because you lack meaning in your life and you're looking for something to give yourself meaning, right? Like, and I know that's a little like overly simplifying it, but at some point, this stuff is drugs, just like other things, right? So, I don't know. I guess what I would want to challenge with people who, and I'm not critical enough, and I'm probably like on the, I don't know, drinking the Kool-Aid too much side.
Taylor just wants to give you a big hug.
Well, maybe.
That's what he wants.
Well, I don't know. I love this stuff. Like, football is so fun and so exciting, but make no mistake, after that TCU loss, when Drew Wright fumbled and TCU gets that last touchdown, like, I grabbed the pumpkins on my front porch and I threw them, and then upon reflection, I was like...
Just in the road?
Yeah, in my neighborhood, right? Like, and upon reflection, I was like, that was kind of loser behavior, right?
Yeah.
Like, I probably shouldn't be investing that much actual emotion into this, so I had to have self-confront myself and be like, well, maybe I need to do a little bit better and not find my meaning and my identity in this entertainment type thing. So anyways, I'm getting a little bit off the rails and I'm going to shut up in about 30 seconds.
That's fine.
Here.
You're good.
But I'm not saying I'm right and I'm not saying other people are wrong, but at some level we are consumers and we are watching gladiators in the stadium and then complaining about them being there every single day and them doing the work. And that's a little bit non-productive for us to just go out and whether it's at the game and complaining or going on the internet and complaining about it. I do think that, like, do you want to be angry or do you want to enjoy this more than you currently are? And I would suggest, I'm not saying don't have expectations, but I'm saying understand that you are coping and entertaining yourself with the voids of life when you do this stuff. And I know I'm probably super annoying, but I need to shut up now. But I think expectations, you can do whatever you want. You have the right to do whatever you want, but aim towards being a little bit happier than you currently are, because I think, I don't know, it's just a basketball game at some point too, and these people are so upset, and there is no right or wrong, I think, and to suggest that these people aren't doing everything they possibly can, I think...
Yeah, I think that's silly. I appreciate that.
Did you bring a guitar, Mark? We could sit around a campfire.
I'm the worst, sorry, I know.
I appreciate
kumbaya.
That. I like that. I appreciate that. No, I don't think you're wrong at all. I just think that I enjoy, when you're well, why do we watch this stuff? I enjoy the ups and the downs. Like, yeah, you want to win every game, but the what is the saying? Like, the bitterness makes everything, the sweetnesses taste better, whatever. Like, the losing makes the wins taste better or feel better. And so that's what I like about the ups and the downs. And, as you get your kids in sports and learning how to win, learning how to lose and all these types of things, I do agree there's probably been times where I've fallen in that camp where it's like you're putting way too much of your life into that. But I think right now you can have a well-balanced, like, be disappointed but not have some big void that you're feeling because you're disappointed. Now, if you're going on, you're criticizing people, maybe. But I think that, I don't know, like, I'm disappointed in the March finishes. I am. I think I can say that. But what is that? That's okay. Like, I want them to win, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
I do agree that you shouldn't be counterproductive and ragging on people and calling for people. Like, and there's a lot of that on Twitter with every fan base everywhere around. And fan is short for fanatic. We all know that. So I don't know. I think it's just part of being a fan and watching sports. And part of me, for me, part of sports is, and it's not because my life's horrible or anything, but part of sports is getting out of your mundane, your day-to-day, your 9 to 5, your whatever, your family life, maybe your problems, maybe your success, whatever, and getting into where you can just be a fan and enjoy something, and part of that's the roller coaster of it. I don't know. I see what you're saying. I don't disagree with it. But I also like the emotions of it. And I love X. I love Twitter. We've been very vocal here that I've had some regrettable treats myself. So, part of that was probably aimed at me a little bit, right? But I don't know. For me, that's kind of part of the.
I mean, you called BJ Reigns a troll.
I didn't call
over the weekend.
Oh, I did. I didn't call him a troll. I said
he got after BJ a couple times.
BJ's awesome. BJ's great, but it was a troll tweet. What did he expect was going to come out of that? Right? It was. Yeah. He knows it too.
Well, and sorry, I do want to clarify. You're right. It's all of our own right to feel any way we want to feel about everything. I agree with that, and I'm not trying to suggest that I've got it figured out at all. I think, like I said, I started that with the preface of I am a loser. So that's just some thoughts.
I appreciate the thoughts. Yeah. I totally do. I love the perspective.
Looking ahead, what do we have, Mark? Thursday game?
I think we got San Diego State.
How have we done against them this season?
Yeah, not great. Not great. It's not a great matchup. That's the one we want to avoid. But
athleticism, right? That's my concern with them.
After everything we just said, it's a tournament, and crazy things happen in tournaments, and you get one, and maybe you get another one. I mean, we have a tough runway. I mean, we've got a tough, because it would be San Diego State, and then most likely New Mexico. But who knows? You beat San Diego State, and then what if New Mexico gets knocked off by someone, right? Mm-hmm. You get yourself in a championship game, and then
is there a way for us to still get an at-large bid?
I think I sent that. We're only supposedly Lunardi has us one spot out.
No way, man.
Yeah, it just seems like even if we won two, it just seems like, and I said it before, but we are always getting screwed.
Yeah.
Why would they this time give us the benefit of the doubt? It just doesn't seem like that's
if
likely.
you lose your first game, I mean, no chance.
Oh,
at
no
all.
way. But I think we have to win the tournament. I just don't. You never know how the chips fall in other places across the country, but boy.
Yeah, I think talking about expectations and not letting, being let down, you got to expect us to have to win the tournament to get in. Yeah. Because if you expect us to get in without that,
if we don't win the tournament, I'll put it. If we don't win the tournament, I'm not going to be watching to see if we made it. I won't. Even if they say, "Oh, we're somewhere on the bubble," I'm not going to spend my time. I just don't think that's likely at all. But I don't know.
So, thoughts? What predictions? What do we think?
Well, I think if I choose to be optimistic and think, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row, we're going to win, I'm probably coping. Right? So I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think, we're going to get them this time because they're motivated. And I love this team, man. The players are really, really Dickey and Cardenas and Carmichael and RJ, and I'm missing a couple on Omar. I love these players. So, and I don't think it's for lack of trying. I think they're committed, and I think they're good. And I just think it's matchup issues and maybe some coaching, which I'm not smart enough to figure that out. But yeah, I actually do have a little bit of a tickle somewhere in here that I think we're gonna win.
The tournament?
Yeah. No. Oh. San Diego State.
Just one game at a time.
The first game.
Okay.
Was that the question? Was it the first game?
Yeah. Thursday.
I think we can win the first
Not that we're going to have a podcast in between games, but yeah, that first game.
Their big guy is injured, isn't he? That's why I started to have a little bit of hope.
Yeah, I don't think he's been playing, but they keep saying he's day-to-day, week-to-week. Like he warmed up for a game a week ago, but didn't play.
Dude, when you're 8 feet tall, though, and you have a leg injury,
it's a problem.
Yeah,
it seems like a problem. I actually think we're going to win. I do think we're going to win our first game.
Nice.
I do think we're going to win our first game. I don't think we win the tournament, and therefore I think we fall short.
We're coping because of the last 10 years, right? This is it. We're going to get it.
No, I don't know. If we went down a 1-3 in a row, I wouldn't be shocked. There's just no way I would expect it or bet on it.
Which makes it more fun.
Yeah, so I'll watch. I'm absolutely going to watch. I'm hoping. I'm not traveling.
You went down last year?
I was down there last year. It was super fun. If you ever have a chance, of course, it'll be different. Next year will be our last Mountain West. But it was super fun. I was there for a soccer tournament for one of my kids, but you can we were front row.
Yeah.
And it was super cool experience to be there. I would, can't get down there this year, but
we just both called the win.
I kind of think we're going to win the first game just because I do think that the team has, the senior, I just feel like I same with Taylor. I like the team. It just feels like, oh man, they're not going to go down this way.
What's it going to take to beat from Boise State?
We just got to shoot the ball. If we can shoot the 3 ball, man, we got to shoot the 3 because we're kind of live and die.
How many points does Dickey need to score?
20. He's got to have 20. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to play big. I mean, he's got to be Mountain West, first team type player. And then you got to have some production from Peanut or
you need that 4th player.
Someone else.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Dickey's 32 points away. Is that right?
I think it's up in the 40s at this point. I thought.
Was it?
He's going to need every single
more.
game to get the record.
He's going to need 2 games to get there at least, I felt like. But I think I got a weird feeling. I mean, after all that, March.
Dude, Taylor's getting tickled. Mark's getting weird feelings.
Yeah, I think we're going to win that. I don't think to win 3 would be really tough. But you want to believe, to believe, and that's again. I go back to that's just the circle.
I say we win too.
First
How
circle
about
on
that?
the tweet. What was Jeremiah's tweet that started this whole conversation?
What's next?
What's
Wanna
next?
know?
Exclamation. Want to know. We just said the same thing. What's the problem here?
No problem. Yeah.
I'm just trolling now. Yeah.
You're not. No, we don't need to rehash it out.
Anything else we need to cover?
Football spring practice started or is starting.
So it hasn't. Well, I don't know.
Here's what I'll say about that. It's great up until Friday, and it's great. And this, to Jeremiah's point,
We gonna do a spring game, or are we gonna do the weird skills showcase?
I don't know. It's great to not care. That's what I'm like. It's great to not even know what's going on in spring football because we are relevant.
That's a good point.
And even after everything we just said and talked about and the disappointments, we are relevant. And it's been several years in a row that we're on the bubble. We're being talked about. We're probably, so I don't know anything about football. We'll get to football in a couple weeks. You know what I mean? Because we are still relevant and there's still hope.
Right.
So.
And the criticism's fair about basketball, but next year, because the last 4 years, I have felt like we're going to drop off, and I've always been surprised that we've been projected to do as good as we've done and then done as good as we've done. But next year, after Degenhart and Cardenas is gone, there's a real likelihood for some drop-off that we're not relevant, even close to being relevant next year, potentially.
Yeah.
They could bring people in, but...
They're going to have to, hopefully it's not a rebuild. And with the transfer portal, it's almost like there's not really excuses anymore. I do think from the guys we have, you got to build around Carmichael and Meadow. But think about what we're losing. There's holes, and I'm not sure. Buchanan probably will take a step up into Dickey's, into that position. But there are some holes for sure they're going to have to go out and get. But I don't know. I don't know enough about the other Mountain West teams to know who's losing what, and it's so hard to project because the transfer who's going to have what. Yeah. But it's been a fun season. I mean, ups and downs, and it's made it interesting to talk about. It's made it interesting to watch. I think I said it earlier on. It's been fun, and it's disappointing finish there, but
There's still more games to play, Mark.
It can all be made whole in 3 days.
Season's not over.
I mean, the reality. And that is the cool. Just if you take a step back and think about March Madness in and of itself, every team pretty much has a shot to play. You know what I mean? And is this team good enough? Can they play up to those Mountain West expectations? We hope.
We'll see.
We have to hope. We'll see. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, that's it.
That's it.
That's going to do it for us today. Taylor, thanks for joining us,
Taylor.
man. Thanks for providing that counseling, that therapy, walking us through coping.
That was good.
Well, it's because I'm a mess, and so I'm probably speaking to myself all the time. So I am so sorry to all of you that I'm irritating to. But to those of you who are like,
yeah, preach.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go.
Good job, Taylor.
We'll be back next time. I'm not sure when it's going to be. You're going to be gone. I'll probably be here. Brandon will be back.
Will he be back? Spring break?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, maybe Taylor's back.
Maybe.
I will be out of town next week.
Taylor won't be back.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. We got to do something after.
That's why you got to come back and watch.
Yeah. And there will definitely be.
Yeah. Come back because there are going to be some new faces. See who those are. See if somebody gets a mustache. I don't know what else you could do, but I'm sure put a hat on somebody. A dress.
A wet blanket over somebody. A wet blanket. Maybe. Yeah. Could do that.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time, and good luck to the Broncos in the Mountain West Tournament.
Let's do it.